Hello, good evening and welcome to UPfront. Today, we take a very good look at what's been happening in this country since Monday after two banks were shut down, collapsed by the Bank of Ghana and eventually taken over by the Ghana Commercial Bank, GCB Bank it is today. We'll be looking at it from the lenses of the opposition NDC in Parliament. They have a statement on this particular collapse and what they think should be done. In fact, the crux of their statement is that they want, as a matter of urgency, that the Right Honourable Speaker demand of the Minister of Finance at the Bank of Ghana go to Parliament and brief parliamentarians on how they are going to ensure that the depositors will not suffer any loss. They also demanded investigations into what occasioned this development. We'll be interrogating these matters after this break. You're welcome back. This is UPfront. My name is Raymond Akwa. My guest today is a member of parliament from the Volta region. He is in the minority. He was there when they did that particular press conference, and I'm told he was very key to the preparation of that particular document anyway. So he understands and appreciates the content of same. Benjamin Podo is the whole central MP. Honorable, you're welcome to UPfront.
Thank you very much, Raymond, and thank you very much to your viewers across the nation. I understand this station is very widely viewed across the nation.
Very much so, and we appreciate your coming. First and foremost, how is the whole central doing?
Very well. There are a few things happening in the constituency. We started off by approving the construction of two dual carriage lanes, one from Sokode to Ho Town. Another as a bypass through the University of Health and Allied Sciences to join the Aflau Road. And these are progressing gratefully. We have got our regional minister who happens to be from the constituency as well.
Okay.
Yes, and we've been cooperating to do a few things together. But as you know, we've just kicked off.
Okay, well, that's interesting to note. Okay, there's an interesting conversation happening in that particular region. It's about the creation of the OT region. What do you think about that?
Yes, you know the processes. We must be very clear about this, that
it will divide the Volta region into two.
In the run-up to the election, the two major parties, our presidential candidate then, ex-president John Dramani Mahama, as well as the new Patriotic Party presidential candidate who is now the current president, both promised to create new regions. And the Constitution provides the processes that we should go through before any new region anywhere is created. You know, the last time a region was created, it was during the military regime. Yes, they didn't have to go through. Yeah. They didn't have to go through all these rigorous processes. So, according to the information we have, 2 days ago or so, the Council of State has submitted, has vetted and submitted the requests or the petitions coming from the areas that people wanted regions to be created to the president. So the process is ongoing.
You support it?
Well, if people wish that they want region,
you are an important stakeholder in the area.
They will go through the process. Discussions are still underway. There will be a voting process.
I get
at the tail end.
The procedure clearly I know.
At the tail end, I'm asking as to whether there is the need to break up a small region of the kind into two regions, or whether it should remain as it is. We will get there. It's not for me alone, if you ask me, to say whether I like it or not. I'm asking you of your
personal opinion on this matter. Do you support it?
But why do you want me to disclose this to you now when we are still discussing? I can be convinced if I say I like it now. Yeah. But there are other important reasons which say that do not. I will go for what I will be convinced about in due course. Because the process has just started. We are now going to hold fora, hold discussions, listen to people, and so on and so forth. So don't
But
don't ask me to prematurely tell you.
The OT region doesn't cover your area. You certainly should have a view on
It's
that.
part of the Volta region.
Yes.
Yes. So
it's
even though
mostly
it
for
is
the
not
northern part of the Volta region.
It's not part of my constituency.
So you'll not be affected if you state a stance on that.
Oh, why would it be I be affected?
Interesting. Well, you don't have a stance on that now.
We are still in the process of collecting views. We are representatives of the people.
You are collecting views. But you are not part of the committee to collect views on the matter.
No. We have already been consulted.
Yes.
At the first meeting in Parliament House the other day, the minister met the caucus.
When you were consulted, what was your stance on it?
So, Raymond, it's just the first step.
Yes.
We are now going to consult further. And as representatives, we have to speak on behalf of our people. We don't have to impose
our minds. So you have consulted your people on this matter?
We are still on the...
I see. When you're done with the consultation, we shall have a discussion on that. But that's just the commencement of it. The crux of our conversation is that Monday something happened. It hadn't happened a very long time in this country. You can trace back as far as 2000, in September 2000, where we realized that there had to be some form of... That was not really a takeover. It was the liquidation of the Bank for Housing and Construction and the Cooperative Bank, the two of them. That's in September 2000. The minority has a statement on this particular issue. First and foremost, for you personally, being on the Finance Committee, being somebody who is interested in this particular area, how did you receive the news of these two banks, their collapse and eventual takeover?
Thank you very much. The import of what we tried to convey to the general public yesterday is that it is good that the Bank of Ghana, as the regulatory body, has stepped in to avert panic and fear and loss to many customers or clients of these two banks. Yes.
Really?
That's what they...
Because our reporter still reports that there was panic. Fear, yes. People
yes. You see, people
did not know what was happening.
Yes. People didn't know that the bank was going to be taken over in such a tactical manner. So they went to do their normal business in the morning and they were told to wait.
Okay.
So definitely if you are confronted with such a situation, there will be a bit of what's happening, panic. But the panic would have continued into today and into the next few weeks if that particular measure was not taken. That's what I'm saying.
Interesting.
Yes, because what happened has assuaged the fears of all clients to these two banks because they know that the commercial bank, the Ghana Commercial Bank, has taken over their deposits, taken over whatever assets they hold or they have with these banks. And so they are quite confident that they will be able to retrieve their funds.
So you are convinced that the procedure was right?
Yes, it's a tactical one to make sure that these things do not happen within the system.
Could it have been managed better?
You know, this thing started some time ago. If you were really watching, you will see that banks like UT had been coming to the central bank for assistance to beef up their liquidity position over quite some time. So it's a process that, look, let's help you come out, but it cannot continue forever. So we had news about this thing happening long ago, but as to the specific form that it took on Monday, it was not announced publicly. Many people didn't know, including me. I didn't know that that's the measure.
Even you on the Finance Committee? No,
but the Finance Committee was not brought together with the Bank of Ghana to know what are you doing about this, what are you doing about that.
Have you had a chance to deal with this matter in times past? As the Bank of Ghana, do you supervise the work of the Bank of Ghana?
No, normally, when there are issues,
oversight.
Yes, when there are issues, we invite the Bank of Ghana governor to come and brief us at Finance Committee level, and also to brief.
Had they ever come up there?
No, not these ones. But the DKM issue is a case in point, where the governor of the Bank of Ghana, by then he was Dr. Wampa, and he came to the floor of the House to explain these things that happened, the licensing, the failure, the supervisory rules, and all that to us. So we wouldn't say that we are completely in the dark. And these particular banks, we knew they were having problems. I think 2 years ago, the ministry commenced an action to assess the viability of all the banks. And if you listen to my ranking member yesterday, he was challenging. I think the news came out. It leaked. The then vice presidential candidate leaked this to the general public that 8 banks were being counted for liquidation.
That was true, right?
So that was an exercise done by the Ministry of Finance to ensure that the banks are healthy within the system, so that there will not be any collapse that will make people lose their money.
But in fairness, Dr. Bawumia then linked that particular occurrence to the then government NDC's energy sector debt that was overburdening the banking sector. You get the difference. So he didn't just release that information. The health of the economy was linked to the debt situation and directly at the doorstep of the government.
You see, you want to find out who are the creditors in the energy sector. If you recall, you see that the major bank that was involved in this energy sector debt was the Ghana Commercial Bank. So during the period of President Mills, the bank was in serious trouble. He managed to make sure that at least 572 million Ghana cedis was paid. That brought the GCB Bank into a healthy position that they can today even absorb these 2 banks.
Not clear all of its debt.
Well, but it was a major step forward.
What percentage of the debt
that is why the previous government introduced this energy sector levy, which we were using to clear the debts in stages. In fact, at the point that we left government, it was clear that negotiations had gone afar with the banks as to the staged reimbursement of the debts that were being owed to them.
So we are clear. As of the time the NDC left office, they had not cleared debt.
No, not at all. Not all.
Okay.
But there were programs. The levy was generating funds purposely to refund the money to the banks which were being owed.
How much, how much was this debt to all of these banks?
I think the reconciliation was still going on. The reconciliation was still going on.
They never seem to be finishing reconciliations in this country. What is the... because really, I've had, what they call it, ministers, former, all telling me reconciliation.
We are now being told
yes.
we have about 2.4 billion to clear all of that. Yes. The other day, we met with the energy sector people at our meeting, and the figures were there. We were still asking more questions. But like you said, these things keep coming up because you have a principal amount. You are settling it up to a certain point. You are unable to settle all. And the principal is generating, or is compounding another interest.
Yeah.
Because banks work on compound interest system. So each time you have to update and reconcile. That's what it is.
Okay, so I mean, as of now, we don't know the energy sector debt completely.
No, we do. We have the...
Is the 2.4 billion true?
It's in that region. And I'm sorry, I asked you today.
So that's that you left?
I asked, no, not these things accrued from several years back.
I get your point. I mean, I think that debate has been
somebody saying that
for a very long time.
I would have brought the documents submitted to us by the VRA when we met with them the other day. That's why I asked you whether you want specific figures regarding to regarding this. I would have given it to you. No. The specific debt, both foreign and domestic debts, which are accruing.
I get your point.
Yes.
The crux of the conversation is that, I mean, as of the time the NDC left office, how much are they paid as in out of the energy sector debt?
Well, that's what I'm saying, that there was an ongoing reimbursement and reconciliation.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So, but we didn't know the percentage that the NDC had paid as of the time they left office.
No, that's not the issue. The point was that the banks were being paid by the arrangement which we had put in place.
And this included UT and Capital Bank?
Well, the report given to us, was summarized under domestic.
So it was not broken down.
So, yes, so I don't want to go into how much was owed to GCB, how much was owed to Barclays, how much was owed to UT and whatever.
You, in your statement, said in paragraph 3 that the very process that was used by the Bank of Ghana and in the press conference on the P&A transaction, the governor of the Bank of Ghana assured the nation that the approach has a distinct benefit where customers will suffer no losses in this particular case. How do you get the assurance that that will not happen?
Yes, one, this was the assurance given by the Bank of Ghana.
Yeah.
And there were negotiations according to the release issued by the central bank that there were bids and they had examined the submissions made by the banks. Well, they didn't mention the
others.
Yes.
They said they assigned a confidentiality clause with them.
Yes. So GCB was found to be worthy of taking over the two banks and then managing them to get out of the situation. So we think that that's good for the Bank of Ghana. So when he assures us, because we know GCB, if the Bank of Ghana is giving this to the GCB to manage, we think that as an acquiring bank, it is strong enough to contain this. But still, we are asking some questions.
Okay, what are these questions?
One, how much is the accumulated loss for UT and how much is the accumulated loss for Capital Bank, which the GCB is taking over?
And this question is going to which institution?
Yes, the arrangers. The arrangers. Because when you are taking over a bank, or even when it's just a normal merger, you need valuation.
Yeah.
You see the assets, the liabilities, and you be able to determine what loss you are taking over. This has not been put out in the public domain yet.
Okay.
Yes. So we are asking, what's the impact of this absorption of losses on the performance of the GCB itself? That is one question we are interested in finding out. Because GCB is mainly owned by public institutions.
Yeah.
And it's your money, my money in it, aside of the individual shareholdings that we have. I have a few shares in GCB. So my expectation of dividend payments going into the future will be affected by the losses that GCB will be absorbing. Likewise, the ability of retained earnings that the GCB will hold to reinvest. Because, you know, we are currently in a highly technological era. You have to constantly be updating your technology to be able to match with the times. So if you have high retained earnings, you will be able to accomplish this. So we are asking, what is the impact of this? But it's perhaps early to give answers to us on this. And this we think that we should be able to be furnished with in due course.
But do you agree that there is no risk necessarily in handling impaired assets in this case?
There is. It depends on which type of assets that...
If they are impaired assets?
Yes. There is. If assets are impaired, it means realizing them become difficult.
Yes.
Yes. In some cases, you may not realize anything. But as a bank...
So, for example, don't they have to just pass
some of the impaired assets could be even the loans that they have given out. So how are we, what measures will the bank be taking to attempt to recover some of these
It's not simple. Don't they have to just pass it on
to
the
question is,
a good collection agency on a commission basis and hope that the recalcitrants will pay?
It's not just easy like that.
So what's the problem for the CGCB?
The questions we are asking include also that. Who are the bad debtors?
You are demanding full disclosure on that?
We want to know. who are the bad debtors? What's their relationship with the ownership and membership of the banks?
What's the relevance of that particular information to you?
Our laws, if we know the details, then if there is anybody who for a particular action or a particular inaction should be sanctioned, we are interested in that.
Okay.
We are interested in knowing that, so that it will not just be business as usual, the losses, GCB take the losses and take the assets which are definitely lower than the liabilities that they are inheriting, and that is the end of the show. It can reoccur in some other institutions. That is why we are interested that who are the bad debtors? Okay. What's their relationship? What type of business were they engaged in, and they could not raise the funds to pay the interest and then retire their loans?
Would you have asked the same questions if were to be any set of banks that collapsed?
If any
other set of banks collapsed?
Why not?
Because some suspect that, in fairness, it is because these are the specific banks. The ownership of these banks are of particular interest to you. That's why.
That's your suspicion.
Yes.
Yes. So
is it grounded in truth? Is it truthful?
I should ask you.
I'm asking you whether it's truthful.
I'm not saying particularly that it is because
so for example,
or it is that bank.
Sorry, but
if another bank,
if the GCB, for example, passes this on to a collection agency and they end up collecting the money, what's the need in having to know those who actually incur the debt, who are the debtors, and all of that detail? What's the big deal?
Let me ask you.
Yes.
Why is it that UT or Capital Bank are unable to get the similar collecting agency you are describing to collect the debt for them? And is it only the loans to the general clients that are going bad? So you see, we don't want to preempt any,
You seem to have something in mind about this particular claim and the demand for disclosure on these matters.
No, I personally think that...
I'm talking about the minority that put out the statement in general. I mean, you certainly will have a basis for making this demand.
The basis is that we are concerned, as a social democratic party, we are concerned about the welfare of the many clients that deposited their monies with this bank. Let me tell you, the history...
This bank and this fall happened under the Social Democratic Party.
Yes.
Yes. The difficulties that this particular bank is having today. It happened under the Social Democratic Party. Yes.
Our concerns are for the downtrodden. The small, poor guys sitting down somewhere in Home Market or in Kutokraba Market who borrows 500 Ghana cedis in order to increase his or her business activity.
I get you.
You see, let me tell you something. The basis I will clear for you. You know UT.
Yes.
And Capital Bank. Capital Bank started off as First Capital Savings and Loans.
Yes.
So you went to the various markets and you found out that their agents, their retail market people were there collecting, savings and loans.
Okay.
So they were collecting 10 cedis, 20 cedis from the ordinary market woman in
in
order to build up their capital. So I tell you that if you go around now and you talk about banks in markets, they will mention UT and First Capital to you because they were the people who went down to them.
Yes.
So our concern is that these may be the people who are going to agitate. These are the people who are going to lose interest in any form of banking. These are the people who we should be fighting for to get their monies back, whatever small it is.
Sorry, forgive me. The depositors, the Bank of Ghana, the GCB has assured them that their monies are safe.
Yes.
What's the need to fight for any...
So, again, in my language,
yeah,
we say that I
don't understand.
Too much meat. Or when you put plenty of meat in the soup, it will not spoil it.
But this is a needless question in the first place.
No. If the BOG says...
Yes.
If the BOG says
do you have doubts about that?
If the BOG says the money is safe...
Do you have doubts about that?
If the BOG says the money is safe...
Honorable, do you have doubts about that?
GCB says the money is safe.
Yes.
And we also say that let the money be safe. What is wrong with that?
No, but what you're saying
we
is
are only emphasizing the same point. We are always emphasizing
So,
the same point.
to what extent is the demand for disclosure on the debtors part of the safety of this money?
So that it will not recur in the future. What happened
Merely
to
putting out the names of people. Sorry, forgive me,
you,
but when you put out the names of people who owes these banks, it would not necessarily lead to recurrence?
Definitely, because
Really?
you will know who you are dealing with in the future. Let me tell you, these people.
But there's a bureau that determines
listen,
that these people owe institutions, and all the banks have access to this particular bureau. You are aware of that, don't you know?
Raymond.
Yes.
The same people who organize these banks, when they are cleared of this, can resurface and establish another finance institution. The same people can do that.
Your point is, if they establish a new financial institution, what's the problem?
Yes, so when we know that these are the same people establishing these other financial institutions, people will know how to work closely with them.
Sorry, which demand are you really making? Are you demanding the ownership of these two banks, which is known to the entire world, or you are asking who are the debtors in this case?
We are demanding to know the nature of the debts, the loans that have become NPL. We are demanding to know. We are demanding to know the quantum of the amount, so as to know the effect on the absorbing bank, the acquiring bank.
I get you.
These are the things that we are looking for. In the process, it will become clear which companies did take these loans that are now going bad.
Okay.
In the process,
so the disclosure,
there will be a reprofiling of the debts, because attempts will be made, to recover some of them. You see, so they have to be reprofiled. Know what are the terms of these, what efforts have been made. Are they really very bad? Then they'll go back to the shareholders and make a presentation to them that, well, after all examinations, we have found out that these debts are irrecoverable. So we want a permission, or we want approval of the board and then the AGM to write them off.
How do you understand the directive that they will be absorbing only selective assets?
Yes, I stand to be corrected because these things have not been made public yet. But in my view, a bank deals with loans and deposits. These are the main line banking businesses. But some of them engage also in other non-bank activities. Some of them have farms, some of them have training institutions, some of them have estates. These are not directly banking business activities. So whatever they have selected, I believe, will be in line with the normal day-to-day banking activities.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting to know. We're still here on UPfront. My guest in the studios is a member of parliament. He's a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. He's actually a member of the minority that put together a statement that's demanding, among other things, that the finance minister, together with the Governor of Bank of Ghana, go to parliament to brief them on this development and assure the depositors that they will not suffer any loss. In fact, you also want another information, that is investigation into what occasioned this development. The Bank of Ghana really said they were doing that. So what was the basis of your call?
I think we are going back to the same thing.
No,
we are going back to the same thing, that we want to know why the bank operating in this business environment, the bank which has won awards as banking institutions, the top management who have been acclaimed as good bank managers, what aside of all these accolades happened, and these banks will have to go down. We are interested.
Did you read the Bank of Ghana statement on the, what they call it?
Yes, I did.
But the BOG admits that the bank's inability to recapitalize has been a long-running matter. Are you aware?
Yes, and I said it earlier, that we know that the banks have been depending on the Bank of Ghana for even near liquidity. Yes, and they have asked them to find means of recapitalizing.
So the bank, BOG also mentioned several meetings have been held in past to create room and explore ways to actually make sure that they do this recapitalization, right?
Yes.
So when they are unable to do so and they eventually collapse, Why do you think that there should be a probe differently to go into this matter? I thought it was pretty clear.
To you, it can be clear, but what we are saying is that we need to go further. On the surface of it, that's normal banking practice.
Yes.
So it is
further
okay
to determine exactly what.
Yes, exactly what constitutes the very bad loans.
Oh, okay. So you are back to this same matter on.
Yes, yes. That's what
my difficulty with you is that you see, I mean, your statement to separate the two and make it look like there is something else hidden somewhere that we ought to know. But we'll be talking more about these particular issues and when or timelines you can do.
It also has to do with corporate governance. If you read some other publications circulating, we know of internal wranglings.
Okay,
in some of the,
we'll do that conversation after we return from this break. We're still live on our frontier. My guest is a member of the Finance Committee in Parliament. The minority issued a statement on this UT and Capital Bank collapse and eventual takeover by GCB. Is that statement we are interrogating on this particular show today? You're welcome back. This is Upfront. We're discussing what happened to the UT Bank and the Capital Bank that collapsed and eventually taken over by the GCB Bank. And the minority in Parliament issued a statement making some demands and insisting that the Finance Minister, together with the Bank of Ghana Governor, appear before them in Parliament to give some answers to what has been happening and some assurances to them. That is why we are interrogating today with a member of Parliament for Whole Central and a member of the Finance Committee in Parliament, the Honourable Benjamin Podo. You're welcome. I hope you are, it's going well with you this particular evening.
Thank you, Raymond. I think we are carrying on.
Okay, well, we left off at the note I was asking what your real demands are, what you want done, mindful of what has been told the rest of us in this particular country. You said that there was some information going around specifically that perhaps is part of the reasons why some of the demands you are making are being made.
Well, I was making reference to some publications making the rounds in social media regarding some internal boardroom wranglings in Capital Bank and other things that happened in UT, management changing hands and all that. So that's, all of that were investigations carried out within the banks, and you never heard of them until these issues came up. So again, if like those ones were swept under the carpet, if these investigations are also swept under the carpet and we do not know, we are losing our values into the future. Students of banking will also be doing history of banking. Interesting. Yes. And when these things are clearly laid out, I'm sure that it will be beneficial to corporate governance people, banking experts, banking consultants, and so on and so forth. So we really think that, you see, what happened in the past, and people ignored consequences of things that hurt us, hurt the economy. We shouldn't allow them to continue.
What are you referencing in this case?
No, if you remember the Bank for Housing and
Construction issue in 2000, September.
Yes. Some of us lost money, no matter how small it was. Because claiming your deposit, go and bring this, go and bring that, go and bring this. You got bought and people didn't even pursue. I remember that an institution, I will not give the name, where I had to even work with, lost some money from this, the liquidation of those banks. So we should be very careful that history. I was
thinking your closest example will be the DKM scandal.
No, that DKM isn't a bank.
Well, I know, but
I'm talking about a real bank,
in that
a proper
instance.
bank.
I get your point.
I'm talking about a proper bank, which was licensed to perform banking duties, so, not microfinance companies. As for microfinance companies, I have my issue with them.
So you think that we didn't do enough history learning? That's why this was repeated?
Well, it can be part of it, but going forward, we should build our knowledge base. Yes, we should look into the future with hope so that these things that are happening today should not be repeated. If people are culpable, I heard yesterday when you were interviewing a lawyer on the radio saying that there is no legal background or there is no legal reason or basis for our demand. I ask, if there is no legal provision which prescribes that bipartisan approach should be carried out in doing the investigations, is there any legal provision which prescribes it? We are in a dynamic society. If we didn't legislate a particular thing, but the thing is happening in our society, we have every liberty to institute measures that will prevent these things from happening in the future.
Okay, so based on which legal provisions were you making some of these demands?
We have the, you know the Companies Act?
Yes.
In the event of a company folding up and then the liquidators suspecting that there was something untoward done, they can apply for the lifting of the veil of incorporation. And then the directors will be held personally responsible. So that was your basis for making the demand? It's a legal provision which one can resort to. And in the the Deposit Protection Acts that we passed, the banking, yes, the banking laws that we passed, there were quite a number of them which we passed last year. They also allow us to go into what has happened to banks in case it collapses in this manner. So there are... Okay, since there's a challenge that there's no legal regime covering that, which specific provisions of the, what they call it, the Deposit Protection Act 2016 Act 931 are you making reference to? Well, I do not have the law here now, but it gives powers to the Bank of Ghana. It gives the powers to the Bank of Ghana to be able to investigate and then get on to, that's what the Bank of Ghana is saying, that they will go about investigating the directors and the owners of the banks. The Bank of Ghana announced it. Will this include the board chairs of the bank? Yes, yes, those are the directors of the bank. Okay. Yes, so they can be investigated for their actions or inactions. Okay, but it looked like the very group in the Bank of Ghana, you on one hand think they are on the right path and they are doing the right thing. So the assurance you want them to come and give you in Parliament, what will be the basis for it? We are pushing for further assurance. We are pushing for further actions. The current assurance is not enough? Let's take it so that you see, that's what I said earlier in my language, that where many people are pointing to the same thing. Okay, yes. Many people are saying the same thing. It means that the society is taking it serious, and you should not hang along the way and appear that you have done your work when to people they are not satisfied with the outcome. Because the Bank of Ghana's approach... Did the minority just feel a need to add its voice to the political conversation? Yes, it is our responsibility. I know, but so that's why we did it. Comment on everything, including this one. Yes, we have to. Especially when we have to make sure when your demands you are making are also demands that are already being dealt with. We represent about 45% of this population. Not in doubt, but and so when any event is happening, we have every right as and a duty to comment on these events and make sure that our people are not shortchanged. That is what we are doing. So we are just emphasizing. You see, have you heard any of the owners of the bank or the directors issue any statement? No. Why? Why do you think they have not issued any statement? Why should they? Well, you go and find an answer for that question. No, I'm asking you. You are asking me why they have not done so. You own a bank. You own a bank. You have property. They've come to take it away from you. You don't have a duty to even say a word to the people you have gone to collect their money. You don't have you don't feel any responsibility to say that. The banks are defunct now. They've been taken over.
the management really has been dissolved, in fairness, and the staff have even been absorbed by the Ghana Commercial Bank. In what capacity will these banks previously owned by these people be making these statements? And sorry, when you say you want statement, who are you referencing? The board or the lower level management?
Raymond.
Yes.
This
it's a very important issue, but
this thing happened in our own eyes, and we know the people who are owners of the banks. We know the people who are directors of the banks. But they apparently they are all right.
How do you determine they are all right? I mean,
because I haven't heard. They say silence means what?
Not always concerned, really, but.
Okay, let's go to other issues.
No, but you are saying that why have they not issued a statement?
Yes.
I'm asking you why there's an imperative for them to issue a statement, especially when they are no longer.
Because of their relationships with the people, even though the company is defunct, they are human beings who have interacted with.
Would they break any law by not issuing the statement?
No.
Would they break any rule?
They will not break any law.
So why is there a demand on them to do so?
I haven't demanded, but I've just asked you whether you've heard any of them saying anything.
But you know that they've not stated anything like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So we think that whether now they are waiting to talk to the Bank of Ghana people, we are still waiting.
The Bank of Ghana says it is actually probing this matter.
Yes, and the Bank of Ghana has gone further to say that they are going to probe.
It's more appropriate for them to speak now to the public or hold their peace, go through that scrutiny, then maybe later on they come out.
Fine.
Would not be more appropriate.
Let's wait for how events unfold.
Has Parliament been briefed on others who are equally in distressed positions like this?
No.
You have no briefing on that?
No.
You are not interested in that?
No, you know, we are not in session now. We have not invited the Bank of Ghana to come and give us a brief on the status of all the banks. So officially, we do not have any information about the other suspected 7 banks that people are talking about as also running into.
Do you think that should happen?
Well, the Bank of Ghana has stated clearly that they are not going to take them over in the manner that they've done to UT and Capital Bank. That's what they have stated. But you see, they are the regulators. Let us watch how they handle the situation. You see, there's a bit of confidentiality in dealing with banking issues. If, for instance, on Monday, a week earlier, the Bank of Ghana had announced that, okay, these banks, we have withdrawn their licenses, they have collapsed. What will happen there? You know, a lot of distress will be in the economy. So these are confidential matters. That's why even the names have not been announced. And I know even those 2 banks, their names were not announced prior to the swift action taken on Monday. So there is some confidentiality in the handling
and
of
trust
banking.
The Bank of Ghana to do what is right.
Yes, we never said that what the Bank of Ghana has done is wrong.
No.
But we are only adding to what it intends to do. And we are, like I used to say on the other station, that we are looking for transparency value.
Okay.
To be added to what they are doing.
Interesting. You want things to be open.
Yes.
Regardless of the what they call the confidential clauses that are involved in all of
No,
this.
this one has happened already.
Okay, but that's fair to note.
Yes.
My other point to you in this particular case is that compared to how the DKM issue was handled, which one was better?
This one.
This one was better.
Yes.
And you also reckon that it was under the NDC government you're part of that handled the DKM issue, right?
What has that got to do with the regulator?
I'm just asking you reckon that.
What has that got to do with the regulator? The Bank of Ghana is Bank of Ghana.
Yes, I get your point.
Yes.
And the governor of Bank of Ghana is appointed by a political appointee, isn't it so?
Oh, so what about all the people, deputy governors, directors who are there? So when a government comes into power, you remove all.
No, I can't say so.
You see, the Bank of Ghana...
There's no way I can say so.
Please,
the current leadership of Bank of Ghana.
Let's be serious about this.
Yes.
The Bank of Ghana is an institution. It has structures. And the Bank of Ghana governor alone does not get up from his house, he enters the office and then begins to run everybody around. It doesn't happen like that. It does not happen like that.
I've not suggested so.
Yes. So we don't want to whittle down the importance of what the bank can do and what it cannot do.
Okay.
So let's trust that what the measures they have taken at each time is good enough. You see, if you want to compare events happening in the microfinance industry with the banking industry, you will be running aground. It will not be the same.
No, I've not said so. I just asked, in the dealing of these issues, which one you think was better than? And you've actually shared your opinion on this particular matter. It's not so?
Yes.
Okay, so now the understanding people are actually asking of now, they want to know, as in many people in this republic, including you in Parliament, are you likely to spearhead the call for action on the other banks which are supposed to be related to the public? Don't you think that people out there ought to know whether the bank they're currently with are in distress, they are heavily indebted, they are likely to go under, and so that information should be made public, regardless of how they can be handling it with the confidentiality clauses involved?
By banking practice, I don't think that we should go public now announcing that Bank Musa is in distress, it is going to close down tomorrow. I think the Bank of Ghana, and in the law, the Banks and Special Deposit Taking Institution Bank Act, which was passed, has procedures.
Okay.
And I think these are what the Bank of Ghana is following to be able. I will not be surprised if, in spite of this approach, another bank is declared completely liquidated, the license is withdrawn, and the bank does not organize any purchase and assumption arrangements for them.
I see.
You see, because it's not a one-way approach to solving these problems.
Okay.
So we cannot say that the Bank of Ghana has done this to UT and Capital, and therefore, if another bank is in distress, it will do the same thing. Or the Bank of Ghana has continued to bail particular bank out over 6 months, so the next one too should bail it out for the same 6 months or less or more. We cannot prescribe the rule. It depends on the analysis that they do in their various directorates of the Bank of Ghana.
Let me be clear on this particular issue. There are two things that are still outstanding today. What is your stance as a minority on the Bank of Ghana's determination to prosecute those who are culpable? Clear stance. What is it? You support it?
If that is what it comes to, yes.
Prosecute directors and stakeholders?
If that is what the nature of their wrongdoings come up to, so be it.
Okay. I also want to be clear on what the stance of the minority is on going into the future, how you deal with these situations so that they don't recur.
Well, we just will have to continue to strengthen the procedures at the Bank of Ghana, their supervisory activities.
So there was a problem with supervision?
But the advice that some of us are suggesting, are giving out to the banks, even those which feel in distress now, let the smaller banks come together, merge, and become stronger. You see.
By smaller banks, which ones are you referencing? Indigenous Ghanaian banks?
Yes, there are about 19 indigenous Ghanaian banks among the 36 that are operating in the country. Those that are in distress. It is not for me to name them here.
Okay.
Yes. But if the cap fits you, you should wear it. Let's get our business people, our bank owners, to agree that coming together has major benefits. You are stronger, you are more cost effective as far as managerial positions are concerned. Your overheads reduce and creates room for you to increase profit making. And then you appeal to investors who will want to become shareholders and go onto the stock exchange. Do well such that you can be admitted onto the stock exchange so that you will not be running into difficulties if you are just alone.
If I can correct me, UT was on the stock exchange.
Yes. That's.
But I didn't stop it from being in this particular situation.
Yes, but still, it was a small bank. It was not able to meet up its. Even firms on the stock exchange can still merge. Yes, it doesn't preclude you from merging, even if you are not on the stock exchange. It is the size of your capital. Right now, we are talking of these two banks being the biggest: GCB, EcoBank, and the Standard Barclays. They are all on the stock exchange. Similarly, there are smaller banks also on the stock exchange. But the important thing is that if the banks feel that they are getting distressed, you see, the Bank of Ghana keeps raising the capital requirement, the minimum capital requirement. And just you and I entered into a collaboration to establish a bank. I have 10 million, you have 15 million. We come together, meet the 25 million basic capital requirement, and we establish the bank. Then, somewhere along the line, the Bank of Ghana increases it to 60 million. If we do not find other people to come in, it will be the responsibility of the two of us
to raise the money.
To go and look for the money. But if there is another bank which also has about 35 million or 40 million capital, and then we come together, we have already met the conditions or the minimum capital requirements of the Bank of Ghana. That is why we think that banks should be start thinking of mergers and the big ones trying to acquire the smaller ones. In fact, I have a publication here where the Minister for Finance suggests that five banks will be...
5 local banks.
5 local banks will be okay.
In
South Africa...
You support that?
Well, I think, except that we have freedom of business operations.
Okay.
Yes. But
that's a suggestion. It's not compulsory.
Yeah, it's not compulsory.
Is it a good idea in the first place?
It is. Okay. You see, South Africa is a bigger economy than our economy here. But there are about 5 banks. Is there either 4 or 5 banks operating across the whole country?
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 36. You see? So I think we should start thinking of these financial management practices of mergers and acquisitions so as to become more efficient. Of course, I'm not saying that the mere merger of banks makes them efficient, but I think at least it enables the smaller banks who are struggling to raise the minimum capital requirement to at least satisfy the first requirement that the Bank of Ghana will like them to meet before they continue in operation.
Okay, but let me ask a couple of questions, a few of them that need quick answers to this particular one, because I'm running out of time, told I'm less than 3 to go. First and foremost, there is this suggestion, for example, from the Bank of Ghana, and Raymond Amanfo made that point clear, that these banks, the 2 of them, had breached some small procedures and even in internal ways of dealing with NPLs and non-performing loans, and had given monies, especially the single obligor limits were also exceeded and all of that. In such cases, is it the directors that are held responsible, or finally the management that's supposed to be held responsible?
The bank has a board of directors, and it is the board's responsibility to ensure that the bank is properly managed. So it's the board of directors as a group that has responsibility for these decisions that are taken. Where we have a situation where a managing director or a high-ranking board member takes loans for his business in the full glare of all of them, and he is unable to refund the money to the bank. You see, these are issues which the bank's board has responsibility for.
And if they fail in that responsibility, they can be held culpable for it.
Exactly, because there are rules that say you cannot give loans to a particular entity more than 10% of your capital and so on and so forth. If you breach them, the laws are there. If you break them, you should be held accountable for that. This is what should prevail.
Okay.
And that would bring sanity into corporate governance. You see,
can you go to jail for that? Can you go to jail for that?
I was raising the issue of...
because of my time, can you go to jail for that? Can you go for breaching these rules?
Well, as to people going to jail, it is a question for the courts. Because...
Mama, say, what is the penalty for such?
The penalties range from fines of penalty units to so and so jail term, or in lieu of the payment of the fine, you go to this. So the penalty units are linked up to the jail terms. So you can be fined. If you fail to pay the fine, you go to jail. In certain cases, the penalty is both the fine and the jail term. These are all...
Okay, I get you. Your request
we are not in court, so I cannot determine what the judge...
Your request for the finance minister and the Bank of Ghana governor to come to parliament, when is it taking effect? When you resume? Or you want to do an emergency
It depends on what happens between now and the time we resume.
Okay, so you are waiting till you resume?
Yes, definitely we cannot...
You can't call it because of an emergency?
No, we can. You have a certain number of signatories to request.
But you're not activating that now.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to hold on to this one because I'm told my time is up. And many thanks to you. And folks, thanks for joining us on today's edition of Upfront. My guest has been Benjamin Podo. He's Member of Parliament for Ho Central, and he's also a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, representing the minority in their statement on the UT and Capital Bank collapse and eventual takeover.